Hey, what's up, guys? This is Jeff from VKH Press. Just wanted to say thanks for checking out our new podcast. This is a new endeavor for us, so we really hope you enjoy it. The first couple of episodes are going to be us covering topics basically ranging across the last 12 months. And then moving forward, we'll be talking about more current issues in the Japanese rock and visual kei music scenes. If you're new to the site, please check us out at vkh-press.com. And if you would like to give feedback about these first few episodes, or if you would like to ask questions that can be featured on future episodes, you can email us at vkhbreakdown@gmail.com. Special thanks to Shola Aurora for providing the intro music and the outro music for this episode. You can find his music on sholaaurora.bandcamp.com, and I'll include a link in the description. Thanks so much, and let's get started. This podcast is intended for entertainment purposes only. The opinions expressed on VKH Breakdown do not reflect the views of VKH Press itself. Thanks for listening. This is VKH Breakdown. Wait, you're not ready?
Oh yeah, you can start. I'll just express my emotions on the podcast. I'm sure listeners will get a kick out of that.
Well, I already started recording, but are you ready?
Oh, fuck. Okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah, all right. Fine. Yeah, sure.
Hello, everyone. Great. Welcome to episode 0 of VKH Breakdown. Woo!
Yay! It took us how long to play this?
I'm your host, Jeff DeWitt, and with me is Winona Peace, proud owner of VKH Press. Say hello.
Yay. Hello, all.
And fellow reviewer slash musical badass, James. James, do you want your last name on the podcast?
James O'Brien can be fine.
James
sure.
O'Brien. Okay, nobody's gonna.
Nah.
There's a lot of O'Briens, so you've got social media camouflage. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, what this is our debut podcast. We're calling it episode 0. We're just kind of going with the flow, seeing how it's gonna go, and yeah. So we'll just start it off by what y'all been listening to?
I listened to the new xaa-xaa album like yesterday, and it's weird and it's good. It's like desert, but maybe it feels like a bit more typical Nagoya Kei mixed with like desert. Like it's not as like Caligari, like Eroguro, like everything's all over the place. Mm-hmm. But I really like that. And then I guess the other thing I've been listening to is, for some weird reason, I've been listening to a ton of Angelo, and then the band that Kirito, the vocalist, was in before, Perot. I don't know why, but yeah. So
nice. What about you, Winona?
All right, I've been listening to Skyver, the band from the guitarist Felix of Echo Black. And Echo Black is New York based. They had opened for Vamps a while back when they had their show at I think it was Irving Plaza. Wow, I cannot remember where that was. And I was there too. This is really sad. But yeah, they really impressed their manager, and Echo Black ended up like really hitting it off with the band too. And their guitarist had sent me his band's mini album to review. So there will be a review up on that soon. Okay. They sound really good. There are a few things about them that like it's definitely like since it's their first mini album, like there's definitely a few things that need to be like fixed that I don't think they quite noticed, but they sound really good, really solid.
Awesome. I have been listening to a couple things, mostly the Black Swan's latest album, xaa-xaa, I believe is how it's pronounced. And, good old Japanese bands teaching me new obscure English language words that I don't know. Like,
yeah, I thought,
oh boy.
No, I thought it was initially like Ouija board or something, and like I didn't know how Ouija board was spelled.
Yeah.
And then I looked up a dictionary the other day because I saw the word in a book I was reading. So yeah, learning something new.
Is it xaa-xaa or xaa-xaa? I don't remember.
I think it's xaa-xaa. I could go on Google quick and like.
You know what? Like,
all right, I'm making a note to splice in like a sound pronunciation of the album title.
Yeah. Oh, it asked me if I wanted to translate it from Greek.
Oh boy. Oh no.
But for those of you out there who don't know, the Black Swan is the new band by the former vocalist of Nega. Whose name also escapes me.
Good job. You want to hop on Google for that one?
Yeah, maybe.
I'm already on the Google machine, so I can. Yeah.
Google machine.
By Jin.
When I was first in Japan, people would call Google Sensei.
Google Sensei.
And I, at first,
Google Sensei.
I didn't realize that they were like talking about like actual Googling, like it escaped me. But.
Yeah, so Jin, the former vocalist of Nega. Jin.
You're so prepared, Jeff.
I'm so prepared. I'm going improv. We're going with the flow, man. Episode 0. That's the theme. Just going with whatever. But okay, so Jin, former vocalist of Nega, now the vocalist of the Black Swan, put out their first full album, and it is kind of like the most evil thing I've listened to in a long time, like the most evil sounding thing.
Yeah, it's evil.
Yeah, it was. I believe it was number 1 on James's 30 albums of 2016. And it's very good. It's very intense. And like, once you can get through like the blood curdlingness of some of it, it's really engaging, but it's definitely not something you can like walk down the street because Jin's screams, like 60% of them sound like he's literally being like stabbed. And so I made the mistake of like, I left my headphones at home when I was like walking down the block, and I was playing it. At one point, he just goes, "Ah!" And I got a lot of stares. So
yeah.
But it's like it's a good album. So
yeah. Now it kind of reminds me of the sort of evilness of when 12012 first came back and they did the self-titled album, and they had like put out a really soft, calm cover of one of the Glay songs on a compilation the year before. And everybody thought 12012 had like really sold out in the past. And then they like dropped the one song. It was just like, this sort of like nightmare vision.
Speaking about learning new words from Japanese bands, I remember like the Gazette put out, I don't remember what song it was, but it was on the Division album. And they kept repeating acatalepsy like in the background.
Yes.
And I was like, what the fuck is that? And then I had to look it up.
Yeah, that's Gabriel on the gallows, and it's like a kind of a distorted like acatalepsy in the background.
Yeah, I was like,
I don't even remember this.
That word. Yeah, it was a great song. It was an interesting word.
Yeah, it's right during the scream, James, when he goes like that screech. It's like very like put in the background. It's like this voice that's like saying random stuff throughout the song. So Winona, they did that more recently too on Dogma.
Oh my god!
The song I think it's like the fifth song possibly on Dogma is called Derasine. And that is an actual English word. And it is. It's an adjective or a noun, but it's like uprooted or displaced from one's geographical or social environment, or like a person who feels displaced or has been displaced. I was like, I thought they were like making stuff up, but yeah, like
for a note-taking sake, ecatalepsy is like, what was it, like being in a constant state of confusion about the world?
Oh, that's
the definition.
Weird. I've never heard that used.
J-Rock, man, some deep stuff.
Yeah.
They know more English than we do.
We got that word that I don't know how to pronounce, but I'll splice in again. We got Derasine. We got acatalepsy. Good stuff.
I hope you're building like an FX soundboard, like a cheap radio show, and you can just like keep some of these Google like translate speaking things.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
Just play like Ouija, like
yeah, basically over and over.
Just like invite guests over and just like start slamming random sound effects.
It's gonna be my censor sound. Like, if we ever decide to go G-rated, I'm just gonna just that female Google Translate voice of like Ouija. You mother Ouija. All right, let's jump into some news and releases real quick. So first things first, Miyavi this year marks his 15th anniversary as an artist, and he has got a lot of things going on.
God, yeah.
So for starters, I guess we can start with the best album. He's got an album called All Time Best Day 2 that's going to be coming out, and it features like 20 tracks. The regular edition comes with 20 tracks coming across spanning across his career. A lot of more recent stuff, but you have like What a Wonderful World and stuff from like the Neovisualism album and stuff. The CD's got 5 remakes, which are like What's My Name, Universe, Ahead of the Light, What a Wonderful World, and Guard You. And the limited edition comes with a second 13-track album, and that has a lot of stuff from his early years, like all the way back from his indies. And then then also included in the limited edition is a booklet with some photos and a live DVD that's, from what I was looking at, it's like a full 90-minute live DVD of his of his live recording from his Miyavi Japan tour in 2016 called New Beat, New Future, tour final for that. So a lot of stuff right there. And actually at the time of this recording, 2 of the new remade songs actually hit Spotify. Have you guys had a chance to listen to them at all?
No. I haven't yet. No.
Oh, okay.
Let's do a live react of us listening to those songs.
Yeah, you wanna?
I don't even. Nah, I don't have Spotify, so that'd be a bit tricky.
Well, it's free on.
That's right. I don't have Spotify either.
What? What's going on, guys? I sent it to you. It's free in browser.
Apple Music,
I know. I understand where we're in the J music industry, so Spotify isn't really high on the list of places with a lot of Japanese music. So I guess I get it. But I can tell you from listening to What's My Name and What a Wonderful World, the remakes for those are up on Spotify, and it is very much like I always kind of viewed like his last album Firebird as like the album where you kind of took a step back from being a singer in addition to a guitarist, and more kind of ended up being like a producer slash DJ in a way, like his own version of that, because a lot of the songs, some of the songs have him singing in a primary role, but a lot of them it's very like his voice distorted in the background, and when he plays those songs live he'll shout instead of singing and stuff like that, and there's more of a focus on blending like his slap guitar with like pop melodies and stuff like that. So that's kind of seems to be the focus of this of like these remakes. So it kind of the songs come off as, you know, like remixes, but like really like fleshed out remixes. Like What's My Name has got like, it's got a rhythmic build up and breakdown similar to like a pop song or EDM song, but it's completely based around like different versions of the crazy guitar playing from What's My Name. And it's like jazzy and dancey, and it's really interesting. And then I think the What a Wonderful World is going track is gonna, or remake is gonna divide a lot of people, because in that one he's using the new like guitar that he does that's like extremely distorted. So he has like really low distortion and then that really high squeaky distortion like layered on top of each other. And so some people, and it's not like slap guitar. It's like, you know, just normal picking, but like with this really low and high distortion together. So
yeah, not to interrupt, but I just got it. I just got Spotify for free with my Facebook, and I'm listening to it. I'm listening to What a Wonderful World Day 2 remix right now.
Oh, sweet.
Right now, I think it's like, it's so different. And then it's so different from the original mix, considering that he's learned so much more about like how to use technology to manipulate the sounds.
Yeah.
And I'm only like 30 seconds in, so I don't have too much to say about it quite yet, but it's really good. And I was partly blown away in those first 5 seconds of the song. So.
Yeah. James, have you been following Miyavi lately at all?
I've seen like some of the reactions like online to his performance at South by Southwest, and it looked like he was getting really good reviews. But I don't know. It's tough because I really liked his early stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's different now.
Yeah. Miyavi was one of my favorite artists for like the longest time. I think, as you guys well know. So the last couple albums have been really, I mean, if you've been following Miyavi for like this long, you kind of know to keep an open mind anyway, but it's just been really interesting. You know, he had his self-titled album in 2013, and that's actually one of my favorite albums by him, because like it felt like one of his fuller albums that had like a nice combination of like the slap guitar and the dance music and stuff like that. And then the next album that came out was The Others, and at that point, for that album, he almost completely abandoned the slap guitar in favor of like focusing on more I guess like song structure and coming up with catchier, poppier songs and playing more standard, you know, guitar playing. And then for Firebird, he kind of mixed the two and kind of, well, he kind of like crashed the last two albums into each other, and so now it's like his really experimental, kind of almost like a Growing Pains album, where like he has like songs like that sound like so many different things, from like 80s to like 80s like kind of funk pop, all the way over to like, he's got a song that sounds like a trap song but like with slap guitar. He's got a song that reminds me of like Iconopop on there, and
really it's like he's trying to find his own rhythm with his own sound, like trying again.
Yeah, well, he's way in uncharted territory now, because I don't know of another rock artist that's made it this far deep into like messing around with pop music and still has kept like their guitars, you know, quite frankly.
Yeah.
He still has his.
Yeah, he still has his.
There you go.
So, in addition to that giant release, Miyavi's is currently on his Firebird World Tour, and he's announced a whole mess of dates for North America, across the U.S. and Canada, and he's also going to be in Europe as well. So that's all coming up real soon. Guy's really busy.
Yeah, his US tour is actually Asia on Tour, presented by Live Nation, and it's with like 2 other Asian artists. One of them is called, what's it called? I know one of them is like Kiha and the Gang or something like that, and they're a Korean group, and then the other one is a Thai band.
Huh.
I think it's called Slot Machine. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So it's going to be a really interesting tour.
Yeah. Outside of that, he's been very busy. You know, he's in a Beats by Dre commercial. I just saw him on TV the other day.
Yeah. Isn't that exciting?
Yeah, it's crazy. He was in Kong Skull Island.
Yeah, he's the only Asian guy.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Man, this dude's everywhere. It's really cool. All right, so our next topic happened a couple months ago, but it's definitely something we wanted to talk about. And since we've got the podcast now, we're just going to jump back to it. So back in January, One OK Rock's vocalist Taka had a rant, so to speak, on Instagram about some problems he's having with Japanese fans, especially Japanese fans attending U.S. concerts and things like that. So Winona's going to give us some backstory on this issue. So go ahead.
Okay, so basically he jumps into a rant on Instagram talking about how recently things came up, especially on his last US tour, and he just can't condone the actions of the Japanese fans any longer, where the culture between Japan and the US is so far like in Japan, no matter how famous you are, your privacy is respected. Like, they don't take, like in the US, if somebody sees a celebrity, they get really excited, right? And you have like paparazzi, you know, coming out, photographing celebrities doing whatever they're doing in their day-to-day lives, like going to the laundromat or some shit like that, eating food, literally anything. And in Japan, it's not so much like that. And fans generally just kind of respect celebrities, you know, like they're other people, generally. And when One OK Rock had come to the US, like, I guess they expected it for like paparazzi to hit them if there were any on them, but you know, at the time they're still small even now, and they're kind of too indie to get any paparazzi, so I guess they really don't expect that kind of attention yet. But when crazy statement there. No, I'm like so sure. Like,
One OK Rock is too indie.
Yeah.
No, in the U.S., like they are.
Well,
I know.
Small considering, because they were
I'm
on
still
Warner
not used
Brothers,
to hearing
and then they moved to Razor. They moved to Fueled by Ramen, and that's for smaller bands. That's like Warner Brothers is for
Warner?
like. They were on Warner Brothers' actual label with Green Day and Linkin Park and shit. And then they were moved to Fueled by Ramen, like a subsidiary of Warner. Like, I'm so serious. So really, yes, they're too alternative.
Yeah, that's good, because nobody's gonna. You've got Green Day, you've got like all these other bands, and you've got this new J-Rock band.
No, yeah, like I'm so serious. Yeah, so this is what I mean by like they really weren't expecting that kind of paparazzi right now, you know, because like they aren't on the same level as Prince, you know, like they're not.
Yeah. So then sorry to not to derail this, but does that make like Fueled by Ramen kind of like the protector label for bands like you know, Panic at the Disco or 21 Pilots and things like that, you know, they get popular but may not have gotten popular if they'd been competing directly with like
it's more like a categorized label, you know, like when you have labels like, you know, 11/7 Music where they're independent, but they're still part of Universal, and they have bands that are so big that they would rather manage themselves, like Hell Yeah, or like, you know, Nothing More, or 6 a.m. or Motley Crue, you know. And then you have like I don't know too many other labels to really compare it to. What's the label that Yellow Card is on? Because I know that label is like also like on the same level as Fueled by Ramen, and so is Razor and Tie. Like it's for those smaller bands that could produce in the U.S., but they cannot compete with bands like Green Day and Coldplay and Linkin Park, you know. So it's.
I believe Yellow Card is on Hopeless Records.
Yes, didn't they disband or something? Yeah, but yeah, Hopeless Records. That's another one.
Isn't Cold Rain from Japan also on Hopeless?
I think so.
Yeah, they are. They're also on Hopeless. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and
all right, sorry.
Yeah, so back on
get you back on topic.
Back on the topic here, and I look at the Instagram post from Taka, so I can very loosely translate what he said, or at least summarize what he said to the best of my abilities. So he talks about how as I said, they respected the privacy of celebrities in Japan, and One OK Rock is like a pop rock band over there anyway, even though they were already alternative because they're so popular and you see them everywhere. But in Japan, it was like they didn't have to worry about being stopped and feeling weird eating food and people taking pictures of them. And when they came over to the US, it was like total switch flip. Like, Japanese fans followed them over to the US from Japan, and they were acting worse than American fans. They were like, in his opinion, they were acting worse than American fans because they were like taking pictures of them when they were eating or just walking down the street and just giggling whenever they saw them and just taking a bunch of pictures without like asking for permission. And at shows they were like so aggressive because they would for one line up days before the concert so that they could get front row like placement at the bar. I saw it at the show that I went to too. Like they and I'm still working on the live report, guys. I'm so sorry, but like I'm dying over here. They had them lined up. They had them lined up like no. They would line themselves up at the barrier. That's the word. They would make sure that they were front row at the barrier. At least the first 3 rows would be Japanese people, literally Japanese fans of One OK Rock. And then after that, you would see American fans. And even in the balconies, you would see just like Japanese fans. Like the only exceptions were maybe press or people with priority passes or something like that. But usually a lot of the VIP passes were taken by Japanese fans too. And like Taka's thing on that was that they came over to the US to, perform for American audiences, and they really wanted to be able to convey their feelings and their music and their live performances to these American audiences. And it becomes increasingly difficult when Japanese fans when they only see Japanese faces at American venues, because then it doesn't feel like they're able to, get their music over to American audiences properly. So they really, really, really want to see at least some American faces in the audience.
I'm sorry, Winona, I gotta interrupt you for a second. I just got this mental image of Taka like trying to sing American Girls to like the first 3 rows of all Japanese girls.
What happened? And before when I said they're so aggressive, there was an incident at I forgot where the Terminal 5. That's where I saw them with my photographer. I saw them at Terminal 5, and the person I was sharing the camera with. There was an incident during like the 3rd song, maybe. Yeah, it was like the 2nd or 3rd song because I was still in the photo pit, and Taka had stopped the performance because apparently, like, crowds in the back, like, I don't know exactly who it was, but people were pushing like hell and squeezing people up on the front rail. So he was like, "I'm sorry, stop. Could you move back, please?" And like people thought that he was like kidding, but he literally had everyone stop performing when they didn't move back and had everyone move back so that people up front could breathe. And he was like, "Are you okay?" Like he asked the crowd, "Are you okay? Let me know when you're ready and we'll start again." And it was literally a whole minute and 30 seconds of them having stopped performing and having waiting for people to shift back because people weren't moving for a good 30 seconds until they were like, "Oh, they aren't going to play until we move the fuck back." Like it was pretty bad. And security came on stage and everything, and I like photographed like the faces of the band members. like
oh, I remember this. Yeah.
Like Toru's face was like, "Oh my god, everyone's dying." I was like, "Yeah, dude, like what the fuck?" So, and I guess like one of like that combined with what he's been experiencing with how fans are reacting to seeing them overseas, it's like it really triggered him to like, I don't want to use the word triggered, but I don't know another word to say. Like it really made him like. It really like triggered him to like post on Instagram about it and rant about it because like he doesn't want to see like Japanese fans mistreating American fans and Japanese fans, like mistreating them overseas and like not representing Japanese.
Yeah. By the way,
this
is all guys. This is all Japanese fans we're talking about. This is not U.S. fans.
Yeah.
He's
so
crazy.
Like, straight up talking about Japanese fans too, and that's something that some people missed. That he was really just talking about Japanese fans because he literally says "Nihon no fan," like Japanese fans.
So is it like a freedom thing because they're not in Japan?
It's not a freedom thing. It's like he understands that they're excited about seeing them, but he really
really... I mean I'm sorry, I mean the fans themselves. Like, is it like
it might be a freedom thing. It might be a freedom thing because they kind of got like all like kind of I don't want to say power hungry, but like a little headstrong about the whole thing, and he understands, like, he even says in the post, like, he gets that they're excited and stuff, and he totally, like, understands it. Like, he used to line up days before for shows himself and stuff like that, but, well, he doesn't say that, but, he totally did when he was younger, but, like, he really just wants their privacy to be respected. When they see them in the streets, act the way that their culture has taught them, so that they can do what they need to before, like, so that they can, like, pay attention to what they're doing and feel comfortable enough to eat. Because at some points it's like he doesn't even feel like he can eat. He doesn't even feel like he can move anywhere. So he feels like he's kind of like confined to a space. He doesn't say that exactly, but that's what he's alluding to. And he definitely says he can't eat, but like, and he definitely says he doesn't feel comfortable going outside. But then you
James,
get like,
No,
James, did you have something to say?
Not to like question what they're saying, but I kind of wonder to what degree it isn't so much an issue with Japanese fans or something, but an issue with the type of fan that would have the money to do this.
Overseas and stuff.
Because, I mean, when you think about it, this isn't something that hasn't happened to other bands. I mean, I can think of, for instance, my dad really likes the country rock singer Jimmy Buffett, and he would talk about Jimmy Buffett would go perform in Paris. Well, there's not a lot of people in Paris that are interested in listening to Cheeseburger in Paradise.
Cheeseburger in Paradise.
I mean, and it's mainly American fans that travel to Paris and they see him there, and so it's more sort of, I think, the type of mentality that might come with somebody feeling that they've paid for that. And I think I mean, if you were to go to a similar experience in Japan or in America for that matter, where somebody who really bases their identity on money and has paid this massive amount, it's the same, if you've lived in Japan, there's a really negative image of Chinese tourists right now. Mm-hmm. So I feel it's more along those lines than I feel it's forgetting this, mythical Japanese culture that everybody has by birth. I mean,
no, you're absolutely right. Like that's something that a lot of people had talked about this for a while, and it was something that a lot of people had agreed on, like that they have this feeling that they feel entitled to being able to do these things. They feel entitled to the band because they paid so much money to go from Japan to the US and follow them on the tours, and they paid so much money for the VIP. And there's even some comments in here from fans who are very offended by what Taka said, and they're like, well, we paid for you and we basically got you where you are now, so we should be allowed to do these things, And then there are also the fans who totally support what Taka said and are like, good for you for speaking up, like we totally understand where you're coming from and we support you 100%. And then there's also like overseas fans, like American fans, who are like, there aren't too many celebrities who speak out like this, so I really respect this and it's good for him that he's saying some things. And then there are also the US fans who are agreeing with how there are so many Japanese fans at J-Rock shows, and how it's like the bands come over from the US and then there are just as many Japanese fans there as there are American fans. And it's like it kind of takes away from the American experience for the band, and how it takes away from the experience for an American fan when the first 3 rows are Japanese fans. So there's a lot of opinions.
That's the big risk from what I see. By the way, this has all been very enlightening for me, because, I wouldn't really know, what the real issues are in terms of this. But the part that I do know is that I can sympathize with, like, the American fan that's, bought, a ticket and then bought their friend that's not into One OK Rock a ticket, to go see the concert. And then, like, the first impression that their, friend gets is like, oh, okay, so it's this Japanese band comes to the States and they've just got like this little entourage that boxes us out for the first 3 rows.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so there's a lot of moving parts, but I can see why Taka would probably prioritize that as the biggest part to be concerned about.
Yeah, and I think that in part is why, like, when J-Rock shows happen, you always have fans who line up days in advance, like American fans who try to line up as soon as possible because they're trying to have that experience with the band that they can't get anywhere else, really,
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, if for someone from the States that, is largely like got that experience, I usually really identify with like Western listeners of music, more than I guess other, J-rock fans might. But yeah, it's just kind of, it's kind of rough on the band. But I will say this, like, if there's one way that you want to get an artist to hate you, it's to fucking throw money into this situation and bring up money and like try to use that as influence, because like any self-respecting artist will like immediately just like not want anything to do with you if you like were to directly suggest that to their face.
That's what so many people did in the first 3 comments of this post.
I know, exactly. Well, the comments are one thing, like, but
they're going up to their face and saying, "I gave you money."
Yeah, no, like, fuck you. Like,
they'll remember your face and then be like, "Yeah, nah, goodbye."
For every fan, the quote unquote fan, that's willing to spend thousands of dollars on, a band and be like awful like that because of that. I'm not saying every fan that's like that devoted does that, but or that invested does that, but like there's like 20 fans that maybe can only afford to go to like a show every now and then, but like will spread the word about that band to all their friends and stuff like that.
Right.
So all right, guys, at this point, James has to take off, but we'll continue with just us and Winona. James, have a great day.
Thank you. I will.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. So this ended up being way less depressing than I thought it would be.
I think it's because we started making jokes about it. I don't know.
I don't know if we should be making jokes
about it. We really shouldn't be making jokes about it.
Okay. VKH does not condone
jokes about
the jokes made
fans.
By
we
its
care about all fans
people.
Worldwide. We are a global site.
Yeah. So, our official stance is we're on the sidelines, but
we're always on the sidelines. We just want to talk about it and say, look, this is what people are saying about it. This is what we kind of think about it, but this is not the official thoughts of VKH overall. Oh wow, we should have that. We should have had that disclosure somewhere.
We'll do it. We'll do it at some point.
Yeah.
This is it right here. I think this is enough. Legally speaking.
Listeners' discretion is advised.
Episode 16, we say something that gets us in real hot water.
Oh, wow.
And then we just point to episode 1. 40 minutes in, or 50 minutes in, it's like, hey, we
said it. We said it. Disclaimer.
To be fair, like iTunes, like terms of agreement stuff is pretty hidden. So like this is about as hidden as that.
We could put it in like our description, be like disclaimers. All views discussed in podcasts are not the views of VKH overall.
Yeah. I mean, I may just have to have you help me with that because, like, my disclaimer would be like, disclaimer, dude, like, chill, okay?
Dude, chill. It's the internet.
So we will continue on. This is more of a catch me up since it kind of happened a couple weeks ago. But Harlequin released their 9th and 10th singles at once, and Winona is going to read the names of them because I'm bad at pronouncing things.
Jeff is throughout this recording. Jeff is splicing his initial pronunciation of things for better pronunciation of things.
Oh yeah. Wait, maybe I could just do that.
No.
Okay.
I got you.
No, it's gonna be an editing nightmare if I do it for everything. The only one I'm doing it for is the Black Swan album.
Yeah, just let me. I'll read it. Okay, so the 9th single from Harlequin is Ma'akana Uso. And that came out at the same time as their 10th single, Kageboshi. Jeff?
I'm not repeating those. But so
say it back to me. No.
First reaction from me was I think the big thing is that it may not be new ground for a visual K band, but this is fairly experimental for Harlequin. And I thought that was interesting. Because, a lot of us at VKH, we've been following Harlequin since like their first EP came out, and we've all kind of been into them in, you know, varying degrees of enthusiasm, you know, over the last couple years. And, you know, we like their music, I like their music. And, but one thing about it is very consistent. You know, they take a harder and more exciting or varied approach to, like, you know, a very traditional Visual Kei song structure type. You know, a lot of their songs, you could say like the choruses you could possibly see in like anime openings and things like that. But at the same time, they're basically doing alternative metal with you know, a lot of, you know, dubstep mixed in and things like that. So it's been you know, for their first album, I reviewed their first album a couple years back, which was Near Equal. And, you know, it was a lot of the same stuff, but it was good stuff. And that's kind of been the theme for Harlequin for a while, at least from my side. And their second album was kind of a lot of the same stuff, but there was more variation. And you could tell there's a very steady, like, they're gradually branching out more and more and more. It's just really interesting to see a band do that, like a very calculated growth, you know, from doing the same thing very well over and over, but mixing it up just enough to keep it, you know, interesting, and then branching out more and more. And now, after their second album, you know, they had their 8th single, Karma, and then their 9th single is Makana Uso, and then their 10th single is Kage Bushi. And so Makana Uso is it's a very light-hearted song, or it alternates between being a very light-hearted song and then like a very funky, like almost like kind of a take on that late 90s funky old school Visual Kei sound. So like I said, like not a brand new thing, but it's new for them. It's like, you know, very experimental for them. And then Kageboshi is like the polar opposite. It's like, you know, it's metalcore, but it's very digestible metalcore, and there's more screaming on it, and it gets very experimental in the middle. So it's two very different singles. So it's just been interesting to watch. Winona, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, so listening to Makana Uso, it's definitely, like you said, like an anime opening, because it's super like relatable. Like it's something that you could definitely listen to at any time. Like if you have how would I describe it? It's definitely something you can listen to at any time. Definitely something you could play in front of other people, possibly, if they can get around, you know, listening to Japanese music. But the style that they chose to do that single in visually, like their costumes that they chose are still like visually interesting. It's not like they decided, hey, let's make it even more bland. Let's still keep up. They decided to keep up like that alternative style where everything is red, but their makeup is still like avant-garde. It's still kind of surprising to see it. And then for their 10th single, Kageboshi, it's definitely like a complete 180 from Makana. So you go from like this bright, super saturated red in the visuals of the costumes to just black, and then Aki wearing like purple lipstick, and it's super matte, and like you just kind of stare at it. It's like, geez, you could just jump into that music video because it's just so dark. And then the sound itself is like super heavy, super different. It doesn't apply to everybody as easily, and it probably wouldn't be an anime opening unless it were like Berserk or something, you know. So those are my thoughts on them. Nice. They're both really good, really solid.
Other noticeable thing is that both PVs have a huge jump in quality, like in terms of, you know, just like how well they're shot. Like they just both seem like there's a big jump in budget for both of them. So I thought that was interesting. So I don't know if you've noticed that.
Yeah, aren't they being represented by like one of Dynamite Tommy's labels along the lines of like of that? Aren't they?
Yeah, it's Goemon.
Yeah, they're part of Free Will.
Yep.
kind of. Yeah.
So this was interesting because, like, this is like, it's almost like what I would imagine they would look like if they were like a major band, so to speak. It almost seemed like a preview of that.
Yeah, even with Makanao, so it's like they're telling a story. They're telling more of a story than they would with Kageboshi, where Kageboshi just kind of shows like, insanity. And they managed to keep the green in there with a green guitar, which is great.
Yeah.
Because we definitely know them for all that green that they had. And then with Makanao, so they just, even though they went softer, it's like there's nothing about, like, except for like showing the couple throughout the PV, there's really nothing about the visuals that would be normal, because they show the rope art throughout it, like this red rope, and then all of this red, so much red. It's like, geez, who did you kill? Almost.
All right. Awesome. Moving on, we have Dada Roma is releasing their much anticipated third member of their Dadaism mini album series. So Dadaism, is it Dadaism or Dadaism, do you think? Dadaism number 3.
Yes. And if it's anything like we think it is, then it's definitely inspired by the Dada art movement.
All right, and it's education time here at the VKH Breakdown podcast. Winona is going to explain to us what Dadaism is, or Dadaism, or however the actual...
It's Dadaism. All
right. I didn't know. All right, teach us about Dadaism.
All right, I can't really say too much about it because I don't know all that much about it. Thanks, college, for not teaching me enough. But it was an avant-garde art movement that started in Europe in the early 20th century, and it was centered in, Zurich and Switzerland at first. And there's a manifesto written about it from Tristan Tzara. And basically, Dadaism was like, it was the idea of nonsense, really. Like, there was no real meaning to the work that there was, because it was like post World War I. And at this time they were like, we've been through the war, we've seen what the war does. And it's like, they really wanted to break away from representationalism and take things apart. And it was kind of like political, a way of expressing their political views by saying, what if there is no meaning to life? If we fight wars for almost no reason, like, then what's the point of making the super representational art and making music that has meaning and stuff? So what they did was, like, they made collages where they just took stuff from a bunch of propaganda, cut it out, and pasted it together, and it looks like there is no meaning to it, but there's a sense of design in there. And they took, like, music, and they made Dada music, which is just sounds as far as I'm concerned. And they, like, made plays, and the plays don't make sense either, really. Like, if you look at Bauhaus, like the Bauhaus ballets that they put on, it's like similar to something like that, where you look at it and you're like, what is the meaning behind it? The fun part is there is no meaning behind it. Like, even the name Dada was just like naming it such because that was like baby talk. It's nonsense. Everything was nonsense. And it became something that was like really like side-eyed in the art world, because it was like, how is this art, and how can you take what we spent so many years like perfecting our craft and our skill, like from neoclassicism to now to representing the figure, and you decide to take that and turn it into and say none of that matters, and saying that this is what art is, this is the future. And eventually it was like, it spread to the US in New York, and it spread through Paris and the Netherlands and Georgia and Yugoslavia and Italy and Tokyo and Russia, and it became a huge thing. And then World War II hit, and like, with Hitler, he was just kind of running out all these modern artists and stuff. So it just it ended there. But its effect on the art world still exists today, for sure. Like, I had to design a whole book on the manifesto of Dadaism, and it killed me just about. And I had to craft it, and it was 3 hard fucking weeks of making this whole book. But, it was worth it. Definitely something interesting to learn. Everyone should definitely look up Marcel Duchamp if you know who he is. He's the guy who took the urinal, turned it upside down, and signed his name on it. basically saying that this was like found art. And that was another thing, like found things becoming art, putting a wheel on top of a stool and saying, this is art. It's taking anything and making it art. And that was Dadaism.
Awesome. Yay. Great presentation. Listeners, there will be a test at the end of the podcast. So I hope you were taking notes.
It's a free education, This is a lecture that you don't have to pay for in college. Yay!
We're out here enlightening minds on the VKH Breakdown.
On Visual K and on art in general.
Yeah, boy. Okay, so Dada Roma, there's a few interesting things about their new mini album. And I gotta give Sophia from VKH like all the credit in the world for how she introduced, or how, for the title that she decided to put for our article up on VKH Press for the new mini album and the PV spot, because it reads Dada Roma's new mini album plus PV spot coming with a strange request. So the PV track is called Masturbation. And the chorus is please pay money for my masturbation. So special shout out to Sophia for coming up with like an impossibly classy way to like dance around
honestly
the
she
topic.
Could have just said Dada Roma is coming, and that would have just been like...
Yeah, also great pun you slipped in there too.
Yeah, Dada Roma is coming, and we'd just be like, what do you mean? And then we read masturbation. It would just be like an off-color joke.
It's like, oh no. Oh man. So I think it's really funny because like if you watch this, they're in the if you watch the PV preview for it, keen VKH PV connoisseurs may recognize the mansion that it's being shot in as the mansion from Pentagon's Popcorn Monster PV, or even keener fans may recognize it or prefer to know it as the PV setting for Medrabray's Killing Me remake. And I'm sure there's others, but it's very like reminds me of Inside Beast by the Gazette. That kind of, they're in a mansion party, but things are all wrong. Except they're especially obnoxious about it. Yoshiatsu is drinking vodka from the bottle and spits it all over this guy's face. And
he came in a plaid suit too. So
yeah, he's in a plaid suit.
You already know shit's gonna go down.
Which shout out to Yoshiatsu for bringing back the plaid suit, which I don't think I've seen since what PV was that? There was a During Gray PV for it.
It's funny because they like half in the PV they like half censor Yoshiatsu flipping off the camera. Like you can tell he's doing it, but then they kind of pixelate it. So it's like, yeah, we censored it, but we didn't really censor it. And on the back, I think there's like an image on his back, on the back of the suit jacket. I think there's like an image of the Virgin Mary or something. Like there's definitely like some kind of icon on the back of his jacket.
Okay, actually, so the PV I'm referring to is Drain Away off of During Gray's Vulgar album. And that was the one that Kyo had the plaid jacket and like the frilly black undershirt and the flare all over the jacket lapels and stuff like that. Good times. So
throwback to the super, artsy During Gray.
Like the cringy artsy During Gray,
Cringy artsy. But they came back, with Ghoul. They were like, yeah, so we tried to not do Visual K, but we got bored. We came back.
Let me shoot you over Skype an image search of these cool photos of Kyo.
I was literally about to look it up.
From the Drain Away PV. I was
trying to look it up.
So you can experience this with me.
Yeah, I remember this. Yeah. With his sagging pants and his pyramid spike belt.
Yeah, his Hot Topic belt. Belts plural, it looks like.
Definitely an early Hot Topic look,
Yeah. Good times.
2006. Very 2006.
Yeah, so, all the way up in 2017, bringing back the plaid. A lot of you are thinking like, wow, Winona, she's a very smart, talented individual. She knows about Dadaism. She has very clearly formed thoughts on things in the industry. Jeff, what the hell do you bring to the table? And you don't you don't pronounce things correctly. You drop your mic in the middle of recording. So what do you do? And this is where I prove myself. So
you do big things.
So I know the origin story of where masturbation comes from. The Dadaroma song, not the other thing.
So when Adam was alone.
All right, so if we put that, oh God, we're gonna put that up, and someone's gonna clip that out. Clip that of just me being like, I know where masturbation comes from.
The origin story of masturbation.
Don't we all have one?
There was Eve.
Listeners, send in your masturbation origin stories.
No, we're gonna get some weird shit. No, don't. Oh my God, no. Nobody take this seriously, please. We don't want to hear those stories.
Okay, so what it started out with, and this is just the progression of me as a Dadaroma fan, following Dadaroma, just taking in all their fun weirdness. So if you go on Yoshiatsu's Instagram page, I don't know if it's still up there, but his bio and his Instagram, and I think his Twitter, has been, for the longest time, it's just been, with no context up until now, please pay money for my masturbation. And it was kind of the funniest thing ever for a long time, crack people up. Then they went on a masturbation tour very recently. And here we are at the masturbation PV. All right, so we've been joking about it, but there's context, it's just that I actually think is kind of interesting because it's probably going to piss off a lot of musicians.
It probably is.
But it's saying, please pay money for my masturbation. And then the part after that is, I will make music for you every day, but we're singing for ourselves. So it's a very lewd way of saying, please pay me to, indulge myself, basically. So
what a way to say that.
Yeah. So, I'm just I'm kind of looking forward to the general reaction of I don't know, maybe artists or fans that, take music too seriously or take themselves too seriously.
Actually, it's kind of like the Dada movement.
Yeah.
Seriously,
pissing off all the serious artists. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They're they work so hard to build up a certain thing, and then somebody comes in and says, nah, man, what you've been doing, it doesn't fucking matter. It's this way. Do it for you. Nobody else matters. And that's basically what they're saying.
I also love the trade-off. I feel like they've fired shots back at, I don't know if you're familiar with the band Vexant, Winona.
Oh, yeah, I am.
So Vexant's a new indie band pretty new indie band that's, they've made some pretty good music in the beginning, but
they were pretty solid. Yeah,
they had some noticeable copycat songs. The Fates is, if you play the Fates side by side with De by the Gazette, so I can't even say French. Mm-hmm.
Actually, some of their looks are just copied from other bands.
Yeah, but the Fates was very, very derivative of De by the Gazette from their Dogma album, and then more recently they had. So when last summer Dadaroma put out their best album, and one of the songs that their main promotional song that was a new song was Risley Circus, and it was kind of very inspired by Inside Beast by the Gazette, but it was done with a Dadaroma twist of their melodic metalcore, borderline melodic deathcore kind of sound that they have, so really heavy but still dancing, with lots of synths, and then a really savage breakdown in the middle. And then Vexant put out Welcome to the Darkness, and it was very, very similar sound. And it was just very interesting because it's very funny because like Welcome to the Darkness had like this very like, I don't know if you've seen the PV Winona, but it's like this very like this text when the lyrics would come out that was like just very, it stuck out, you know, from the rest of the shot. It was like this very weird.
Check it out now, actually.
Yeah, like it's a very like bold font that's just kind of like plastered across the PV and like really stuck out.
Yeah, I can see it. And it kind of bothers me.
Yeah, so I thought that was funny because now Data Aroma has come out with Masturbation, and they're using almost the exact same text in the PV.
That's true. Oh my god.
Yeah. So
wow, it's like copy us now, bitches. Like
I don't know if that's intentional. I really like to think that it is.
I bet it is. I really bet it is. Like that's.
Yeah, if any band would do that.
Oh my god, it's like so funny that artists do these things and think they can get away with it. Oh my god, like nobody will notice.
Nobody will notice. Oh, the
like with Vexant copying Dead Aroma, because like I heard Dead Aroma's song, but like, and yeah, it is like their own version of Inside Beast. But then when you watch Welcome to the Darkness, it's like they were trying to, all that Vexant did was try to shift it even closer to bring like the Gazette.
Yeah.
And it's like there's no originality in the song at all. It's literally a mix of Dead Aroma and the Gazette just like came together, but that's it. Like it's not even a little mix of Vexant in there. The only thing that's Vexant is the PD, if anything.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
So I do like Vexant when they sound like, you know, their own sound. But it's just been funny to watch that back and forth. So I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to the album preview for Dadaism number 3, Winona, but it is very different from a lot of their previous releases. The metalcore that the band is kind of known for, that really hard-hitting sound, like the really powerful drums and everything, it's pretty much all but gone. And you can kind of tell that in Masturbation. You know, Masturbation seems to be a little bit more dancier, or like almost like less like heavy and more like rocking, so to speak. A lot of the songs on the album preview, at least, definitely going in a different direction. So, and it kind of makes a lot of sense because Dadaism number 2 was extremely metalcore, like extremely heavy, very ferocious, compared to like their Dadaism number 1, which was like a healthy strike between the two. So it kind of makes sense that they would swing in the other direction, because they definitely are a band that, you know, like bands like the Gazette, they like to take their core sound and experiment with a bunch of different sounds. And they've done that with previous singles.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to widen their breath, really.
Yeah.
From what I can hear.
And it's interesting because it's like, it's good for, the songs are good for what they are. So it's just going to be an issue of, if you were only listening to Dadaroma because their heavy stuff fucking slaps, like like you're probably not gonna like this. It's probably gonna seem like some sellout-y thing to you or whatever.
Even though it's called Masturbation.
Even though it's called Masturbation, they're kind of making a pretty strong point about what they're doing. So
it is not fake material. I'm sorry.
Hey, you know, it could be. It could be. There's
I need to stop.
Everybody has a thing, okay? There's no judgment of all that on the VKH Breakdown. Only tolerance and love and all kinds of encouragement to openly engage in paying for money for masturbation. I mean, no, none of that. What? Okay, moving on. Our final news item / release item is, and this has already come out, so this is just going to be us talking about it. It's no real news. The Gazette, in celebration of their 15th year as a band, has released their a ballad best album called Traces Volume 2. All of the songs on it are remakes. And Winona, do you have any initial reactions to this?
Yes, I personally, like, all the songs on this album are definitely all of my favorites, I can say without a doubt. But like the remakes that they did, it's it's perfect. Like, I think it's a great thing that they did this because their sound is so different from what it was when they initially released these things. So it's like they took what they know now and they put it into these songs, and there's some rearrangements, of course, but like it's great. Like it's better than the first time I heard it, honestly. That was my initial reaction.
Yeah, and it's just, it's everything from, some of the older songs that have sounded great when you see them being performed live, over the last couple of years. But the original recordings really, really, really show their age. Like Kareuta is a great example of that. If you watch their Dogmatic Tour Final DVD, you'll see in their second encore, they only have one encore. In their encore, they start with. No, it's their second encore. Whoops. Okay. In their second encore, they start with Kareuta, and it's like a gorgeous rendition. And it's like, the original one, Ruki was still in that phase where it was like his voice was still like kind of not all there, so to speak, Like I don't want to say it was off key, but it like felt off key sometimes to me, like back in the old days. And they've brought that into the remake, that added fidelity of Ruki's vocals and, the better production and everything like that. Can we talk about the Taion remake? Like, damn.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
There's some good. It was really interesting to see the breakdown with the news screams from Dogma and everything like that. So I'm still digesting the album personally, but I've got a lot of good impressions. I think there's some like Gurren that I think a lot of people are going to prefer the originals. Just because as the Gazette's gotten more metal or more metalcore, or using crunchier guitars and stuff like that, sometimes it's harder to recreate some of their older sounds that were a little bit dealt with a more nuanced, quiet sound in the ballads, but I think overall it's really solid.
I think that's due to the fact that they've experimented with electronic music now, and they know how to like play with all the tracks that they want to, and with that ability they're able to make things sound crisper and closer to the idea of what they probably initially had when they wrote the songs. And with Ruki's voice being as developed as it is now, like even though initially he had vocal issues, I think, when he was first trying to sing, right? Because like he smokes too, and that like made it a little harder, but he got through it. And especially with Cassis, like it's the era that you were talking about where his voice wasn't totally there yet, but it was getting there. And with Cassis, the way it sounds now, it's so much better. It's just so much better than it was. Yeah. With the cleaner production quality and everything.
Yeah. And they fixed the English. That's how like they really went in on the remakes.
the pronunciations are so much better. Like, yeah.
They fixed the grammar and they did like good pronunciation, all things considered.
It's like when Vamps redid a lot of their songs for their best album. They just re-recorded everything. Like Love Addict, they fixed so much in the English, and I was like, wow, you guys are really trying. Yeah. And then Hyde came here and sang Diamonds from Rihanna, and that's a whole other story.
and I personally appreciate it when they do that, because we know, I mean, Winona, you and I know that there's the whole thing where it's like when Japanese artists release music that has English in it, they're targeting their Japanese audience. They put a heavy accent on it intentionally because that's how most listeners are used to or expecting it to be pronounced. But that does make it harder on us English speakers who are trying to find the English in the music sometimes to relate to it. And we miss it sometimes because of the intentionally thick accent that's put on it.
Yeah. And then sometimes it's like, they can definitely speak English, but they don't want you to know that. So yeah, again, intentionally thick accent on it because they chose that for stylistic purposes.
Yeah. One of the many aspects of the balancing act of, making music for your home country and making music for abroad and stuff like that. So
I think we're gonna eventually reach a point, like if things continue to proceed the way they are with J-Rock, like how One OK Rock releases Japanese versions and then American versions, that's probably what's going to end up becoming more globalized, throughout the market, throughout the Visual K and J-Rock market, hopefully.
I think I might prefer that for a lot of bands. It'll be interesting to see which bands are able to just be their own Japanese self and break through to, other... like I think the Gazette has a really good chance of just like staying.
They could just do them. I think
just do them, and it's worked for them so far, man. And
and they've really okay. This is one of my things about their tour in the U.S. It wasn't promoted properly, but I think if it were promoted properly, if the people who were promoting
all right, just a quick introduction for this part. This is the part where Winona rants on one of the things I've seen her most passionate about in since I've known her is the promotion of the Gazette's US tour. So take it away, girl.
Wait, I gotta see if I can pull up my initial article on it, because I wrote a speech about it for a class because I was so passionate.
This girl wrote a speech about it. You presented and everything, right, for your college class?
Yeah, so I called it "The Gazette Should Have Sold Out" because I was in PlayStation Theater that January before the Gazette came to New York, and I'm actually located in DC, but I go to school in New York. And I was covering One OK Rock there, and they had sold out 3,000 seats in PlayStation Theater, and it was astonishing how packed it was for One OK Rock. And it was because they were really well promoted. They were at the time signed to Warner Brothers Records, and now they've moved to Fueled by Ramen, which is a subsidiary of Warner Brothers, but I think it's because they're an alternative band, so they're not, and they're still kind of small in the US, so they're not quite big enough for being on Warner Brothers main label, because that's Prince and Linkin Park and Green Day, and they're not quite there in the US. But anyway, they had sold out because they were really well promoted. You saw their name everywhere on alternative press and on Facebook ads occasionally, I think, and their music videos were really pushed. And for the Gazette, they had the same caliber fueling them. I know they had put the name of the agency they had used, but that wasn't the agency that was responsible for promoting them. That was their booking agency. And the agency responsible for promoting them was AEG Live, I think. And it was all of the connections AEG had to the Gazette, it's they had in the US, they could have used for the Gazette. Even if they had just put some articles on them in certain rock music magazines, or just really pushed some of the music that they already had up on their YouTube channel. Because I think they had their YouTube channel at this point, right? Last year? Because they didn't have a Vivo until earlier this year, or in 2016.
They do have stuff up on their main YouTube channel. It's just not available in the States right now. In the past, though, I think it was before YouTube Red happened. They had it's changed back and forth, but they had put everything up from their Toxic album, all the PVs from their Toxic album, and Remember the Urge and that era, and then also from Beautiful Deformity they put up Fadeless and Inside Beast. They skipped over Division for some reason, and that all those have since been moved to Vivo and are now available in the US. And in addition to that, Dogma, Do, Ugly, and a couple months ago, Undying, they're now also all on the Vivo channel that can be viewed in the US. But at the time of the tour, I don't think there was any PVs that were available on YouTube. They just had their old library, that their first 3 major albums on Spotify, and that was about it.
Okay, well. Either way, in any case, even if the company was super busy, I think that if they had been promoted, even with just J-Rock news sites, because there were some J-Rock sites that didn't totally do the job that they were supposed to do, like interviewing the band with email interviews and stuff like that, so that they could be published. And then there were probably some reviews that were supposed to have been done before the tour to help promote it. Like, even if the company that was working with them had done something like that with other like bigger sites that they knew, because they definitely had those contacts, and like PSC and Sony definitely been up for it, then I think that the Gazette would have caught so much attention, and and metalheads everywhere would have just like went to check them out, because apparently in their Los Angeles show and stuff, like even in New York and stuff, some people just bought a ticket because it was a show that they could get into that was rock, and they checked it out and they were like, this is awesome. Like, I want to keep following this band and stuff like that. And with that, with people like that, like there are definitely more people like that out there. And some people didn't go to the show because they didn't know that the Gazette was coming. And when somebody doesn't know that your band is coming and it's like their first show in the US, like you would kind of want to make it as known as possible. Because I know that toward the end, AEG Live had tried to do promotional ticket giveaways, but it was too close to the show, and it was like a month out from the show happening. It's kind of hard, or maybe 2 weeks out from the show happening, and it's kind of hard to promote a tour in those 2 weeks. So yeah, in the end, I really think the Gazette could have sold 3,000 tickets in New York. It definitely could have happened, 100%. It just didn't.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And my whole key takeaway is, and I know there's, licensing issues, and there's, like streaming services are kind of still like a taboo thing in Japan for, a lot of people and companies. But if you're going to succeed internationally, you have to make your current music available on Spotify and YouTube. That's like end of story. If you want to make only certain things available on certain platforms or whatever, I mean, that's fine, I guess, but like you've got to make it available. That's how all of us like find new music in the States, is like Spotify and YouTube mixes and stuff like that. Warped Tour runs off of Spotify and YouTube. Knotfest, Slipknot does, I believe they do like Spotify playlists and stuff leading up to Knotfest.
Yeah, even with that, I think that the Gazette being around as long as they were celebrating their 13th year, and they had the whole brand of Project Dark Age to go off of. Even though they didn't have stuff available, for people to really view. If people Google them, let's be real, there's stuff on YouTube for people to watch, because there are some bootleggers out there putting stuff up on YouTube, even though that's not something that we really can promote. But people have a way of finding their music and listening to it, and it is on iTunes. Their music is on iTunes too, so
it's on Apple Music, so it's possible. And we definitely we don't condone bootlegging or pirating, but we it's also really important to recognize that stuff like streaming services and altering your business model to work with that has saved a lot of bands from piracy, and it's one of the few things that has helped to quell piracy, at least from what we've seen in the States, in being what's the only thing that's easier than downloading music illegally? Well, it's streaming it on a really nice user interface without having to worry about getting viruses or anything like that, and either listening to ads or paying for the streaming service, and people will pay for it, or people will listen to the ads, and that's helped a lot of indie bands get back out there and be able to promote themselves, and bands in general, really, not just even indie bands. So but that's really how it works.
internationally, at least in the States.
Yeah, and I think the Gazette recognizes that they need to like I think since their US tour, they recognize that they have this huge fan base, and the fan base just keeps getting bigger, and they've been making the efforts to make sure that their music is available online for people to check it out, like moving to Vivo and stuff, like so that they could get around YouTube Red, and like really pushing their Facebook for, if anything, because they've been posting like in English on that, like seriously, for like the past 2 years from what I noticed, since they like, shared our articles.
Yeah,
but
that was their key. That was their the best move they've made thus far, is sharing our live reports.
Sharing all of the VKH Press live reports to make sure that the reviews of their best concerts, reach other people, so people know what's going on and what's what, so they get excited to see them when they do come back to their home countries, like when they do go overseas to see, and people can see them in like, Spain, different parts of Europe, different parts of South America, different parts of North America, and stuff like that. And I think that if they decide to do another world tour come their 20th anniversary, or any sooner if they can manage to do that, then it will definitely be much more successful than their, their third world tour, but the first time they included North America, or is this their second one? I think this is their second one.
This is their second world tour. And
yeah.
It was the first time they included North America.
America. Yeah. So when they do the third one, it'll be so much more successful because their music is so much more accessible, and it's easier for people to preview it and check it out and like get into it. And if they really like it, then they can support the artist the way that they want to.
Yeah, and that's also a really unique thing about the Gazette, is that like, there's bands out there that, they work their asses off to make their music accessible, make their music, in a lot of ways sometimes cater towards audiences and stuff like that. The Gazette has never needed to do like any of that. And that's why, the only reason it's become an issue now is because it's an issue of actually striking out and succeeding in a brand new market and stuff like that, and really trying to embrace that strategy. But like the kind of music that they make is, when it's made available to people, to Western audiences, it's embraced. Dogma like charted in the top 10 in iTunes charts in like I think at least 10 countries in Europe when it went out through JP Records.
Yeah, it was like super popular, and like I think it's because their music is like, it's funny because it's so relatable in a way that it shouldn't be. Like it's almost like how pop music is so like generic. They are so like diverse as a band that people can really just get into them if they just take the time to like listen to them and understand what's going on in their songs, if anything.
Yeah. Plus, gotta love that Digital K.
Yeah, Digital K, 2K17. Am I right? Like,
yeah. So that was our thing. Is like that was a joke we've been kicking around. Is that I found on I think on a Visual K database somewhere, or some wiki or something, a reference to like smaller versions of, or subsections of Visual K, and it's going through their traditional ones like Nagoya K or Iragura K or Angura K, and then there was Digital K, and I was like, Digital K is like the combination of like electronic music and in rock music and Visual K, such as Division Era Gazette and this.
So
band,
wait,
that
did
band.
you didn't come up with this name on your own? Because I was gonna be like, yo, we should just.
They made it. Look. They made it a hot line. I'm trying to make it a hot song. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hot line.
I'll find where it was and give them credit or whatever. But like I'm in the next episode. But like I'm so like. Yes, let's make Digital
So
K
guys,
a thing.
let's make it a thing. This is really popular. It's like Anguro K. It's like Fairy K wasn't very popular. So right now it's like in that Fairy K stage where
There's
it's
a
not
section
really
of listeners
recognized.
right now that are like, oh my God, they just talked about Gazette for 15 minutes. And now they're talking about the shitty electronic music that is polluting our Visual K.
I don't think there's a lot of people who think that, but I know that like one of our translators, he actually like, what was it? He was like talking about Wingworks, and he didn't really like the direction that Wingworks was going because it was super electronic, and he didn't like that Visual K was going in that electronic era way, because he's like comes from the more classic Visual K, like like Malice Miser and like earlier Dirt Gray and stuff, without where it's super, organic and not so digitalized. And I'm just like, yo, man, I get what you're saying, man. Wingworks is like 100% electronic, but man, what about the new cassette though?
So good. It sounds so good. Come on.
He doesn't like it. What can I say? He doesn't like it too much.
So good.
There are people like that, Jeff. You gotta understand. Just like how there are people.
You don't understand. I want the Gazette
like
to go back.
Anchor.
This is me putting my flag in the sand. Like I want the Gazette to like return to electronic, like their electronic style, the way like other Gazette fans have wanted them to return to dim. Okay.
Oh my God, yeah. I remember we asked them that question too, right? And they said something like, well, we make music for us. We don't really make music for you guys. So, or something like that. Like they're just trying to explore something new for themselves and hope that people like their music too. And their fans are people who really understand their way of thinking or something like that is what they said when we asked them that.
Yeah, and we'll get into this more, like, in the next
future episodes.
In future episodes in the next section of the podcast. But like you could really tell, like, Project Dark Age was like the final way to hammer it into people's heads that they're not gonna go back to dim. They'll do a darker sound, but they're gonna go a completely different direction with it than you want, or than
I feel like at this point the next stage is death metal, and then after that,
it's Osharike. It's Osharike. It's what's next.
No, that's what I was gonna say. Like after death metal, it's Osharike, and it's like
it's all ballads.
And they're gonna take like the most happiest sounding fucking pop that they can, blend it together, and then the album after that is gonna be them somehow mixing death metal with Osharike, and we're gonna be like, how did you pull this off? And it's gonna be the best thing ever.
Basically.
I really hope they do something like that. I want to see them make pop work. God.
They're gonna put out their first mini album, and it's gonna be a dubstep album. Rookie's gonna start having Future open up on his on the Gazette tracks with like that.
Oh my God, it's gonna be trap album.
It's gonna be like a trap album. You're gonna hear right before like the iconic.
If you're Metronome, just don't have a shoot you.
Or like if Young Metro don't trust you, I'm gonna shoot you.
Raindrop, drop down. Oh my God, bad.
You thought we were making dim, but we not.
Really not. Oh my God, and then Rookie's gonna start rapping. That would be amazing if they like did trap rock. Oh my God, I would laugh so hard.
Trapcore, let's do it.
Trap rock, trapcore.
Trapcore.
Trap K.
Trap K.
They start Trap K.
I'm down. I live an hour north of like one of the trap meccas of the world, man. I'm down.
Once the Gazette does it, like, all those other Visual K bands that really look up to them are gonna do it, and then we're just gonna have an era of trap VK, and then you can really like I know Miyavi's
not really in Visual K
anymore,
but like,
he's coming back. It's happening. He dyed his hair silver. He's gonna start saying he's K-pop, but nah. VK.
Oh my God. He like in his last album he had that song "Raise Me Up," and that was literally a trap song with slap guitar.
It was, and now he needs to go back and do it again and make it better.
The groundwork's being laid, guys. Like,
it's gonna happen in the next like 10 years.
Digital K.
Like when the Gazette runs out of stuff, they're gonna do trap. No, not even when they run out. I know Rookie listens to rap music. We know this because we saw Rada and Rookie dab at the end of the
New York concert. Yeah.
In New York, they dabbed, guys. It's gonna happen. It's happening.
And God, like when I met. I paid for the VIP ticket, so I got to go backstage and shake their hands. And Rookie has the most gangsta handshake. Like,
he dapped you, man.
No, yeah, like,
he dapped you.
Like, the swag ran through my body. Like,
the swag. He is the swaggiest person, and it's so funny because he he's the definition of a rock star. He's doing whatever the fuck he wants. He doesn't care. Like,
guys, I promise next episode it's going to be like a Duran Gray conversation or something.
Duran Gray conversation, yes. Yeah. We talked about Japan for a time too. So I think we're balancing it out.
Yeah. We'll be good. We'll be good for you guys. I promise. All right.
Yeah. We know more than just Japan and the Gazette. I promise.
Promise.
Yeah.
Let's talk about like some indie bands that nobody knows about right now.
Yeah, we're gonna
we're gonna talk about fucking Verzel.
There's Owlin.
There's Iolin. There's Iolin. That's the pun.
Iolin.
That's another pun.
Visual violin is where they get their name from. I actually checked them out for a second.
You also realize it's a pun, right?
It's a pun, yeah. Island, yeah. But they're pretty good though. They're pretty good.
Yeah.
Like I checked them out. They're pretty good. Like pretty solid considering, and it's only their first single. So I don't have too much to say on them, but I'm definitely going to keep an eye on them.
You're going to take an eye on them? You're going to put an eye on them?
Oh my
God.
Island? Island, yeah. Totally. Wait, what about Samurai Jack Universe, man?
I don't know anything about this band. You got to fill me in.
Okay. I would like to commemorate Samurai Jack coming back to Cartoon Network, and it's the 5th season. But Samurai Jack Universe, and I have to like give a shout out to James on this one for when he comes back. Like, I don't know where they get their name from. I didn't get to look that up, but I checked out their music, and it's not heavy. They have like it's like when you look at Radwimps, you know.
Yeah.
They have that look where it's like they're definitely a band that would be popular in Japan, and their sound is definitely like something that would be popular in their home country because I don't want to say it's generic, but it's pretty generic, but it's also like good. It's solid. That's the only thing I could say about it. It's solid, but it's not entirely my style, but I was pretty hyped about the name.
But 5 out of 5 star name.
5 out of 5 for the
out
name,
of 5.
man.
Yeah.
I'm about to look up the origin of their of the name.
All right, guys, we've come to the end of episode 0, the debut, highly experimental episode. Finally, Winona's sick of this shit already. So thanks so much for listening. Please check out vkh-press.com. We've got all kinds of great news articles, interviews, reviews, fashion articles. We got everything you could ever want, man.
Just about.
Follow us on Twitter at VKH_official and on Facebook at the page VKH Press. We post all of our articles to those accounts as well. We're also on Instagram. You can follow Winona at
The Real Winona, and also on it's the same for my Twitter and my Instagram. As far as Jeff goes, we are not sure.
I've been bouncing around social media names. I'm trying to find one that just kind of sticks. I'll splice it in here, unless we wait all the way until the next episode, and then I'll splice it in that one as well.
Jeff,
maybe just don't follow me right now.
What's your current social media so people have an idea?
No, I can't say. So, hey guys, it's Jeff from the future. I solved my identity crisis on Twitter. My Twitter handle is now The Only Real Jeff. Okay, back to the show.
Was it out-de-witted? Is that it? Is it still that?
It's that. That's why I can't say that and people will find it. That's the problem.
Out-de-witted.
Yeah. So, do you think I should just keep it as that?
I don't know, man.
Well, this is the best outro I've ever
before
recorded.
You were the one true JD or something like that, right?
I'm that on Instagram. I can't use any of this. Fuck.
You can't use any. Oh my god.
God damn it.
Jeff, just be the real Jeff.
But then it sounds like I'm copying you.
No, because you are literally, there's so many Jeffs out there. Be like the official Jeff. I don't know. I'm copying Ryan Higa. He's the real Ryan Higa.
All right. Well, now I don't feel bad. All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the real JD. All right. You know what? That's
The real JD.
Yeah. So
Now, if you put the real Jeff, it would be really funny.
The real Jeff.
Because there's so many Jeffs.
Can I say
such a generic
I'll
name.
just do the one true Jeff. How's that?
The one true Jeff. Yes. Yeah. Whatever works. If it doesn't work for the real Jeff, then the one true Jeff.
All right. And on that note, thanks for watching this shit show. Or listening to it, I guess.
Oh my god. Episode 0, guys.
Episode 0. Ground zero. Man, like, God. All right. We made it. All right. I'm out. See ya.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Again, I was confused and lost that memories were all I had. The feeling of this world I cannot wash away. Is this purpose on that new day? This fate I've long endured, I prayed would fade away. You are my purpose. You light the way. The emerald lantern still burns on, a beacon of how far we've come. My darkest past now seems to